I appreciate everybody being here today. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Barger, if you will, please call the roll.
Master Combs?
Here.
Master Berger?
Here.
Master Tudor?
Here.
Master Buckin?
Present.
Judge Taylor?
Here. At this time, I'd like to invite Brother Kenny Davis up from Bethel Baptist Church to lead us in a word of prayer. I appreciate you being here today, buddy.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege that we have in this nation to win the government that you've given us. And God, I pray for each of these who make up this fiscal court. I pray for Jenny Heyman, Lord, as she is our county attorney. I ask God that you bless her and use her, give her wisdom and knowledge in all that she does. I pray the same for our magistrates, for Magistrate Bakken, Magistrate Tudor, Magistrate Combs, Magistrate Barger. God, they represent their districts, and we pray, God, that they would always look to you for the answers and the solutions of what we need. I pray for our judge executive. I ask, Lord, that you bless Reagan Taylor. Use him in whatever way you see fit to further this county and to help us, Father, to remain the best place to live in all the world. I pray for our jailer, Steve Tussey. I pray for our sheriff, Mike Coyle, and our clerk, Kenny Barger. I ask, Lord Jesus, that you would bless these folks. Lord, they have difficult jobs, and Lord, I ask that you would keep them safe, they and all those that work for them. I pray for our county employees. I ask, God, that you give them safety on their jobs, and Lord, that you give them satisfaction in their jobs. Lord, I ask today that you just continue to work in each of our lives and draw us closer to you. I thank you for our founders and, God, their vision for the government that we have today and their understanding that, Lord, nothing is accomplished outside of your permissive will. We ask, God, that you'd be at work, that you'd remind us daily how much you care for us. And Lord, if we ever doubt that, may we look to Calvary and see the blood that was shed by your Son, the Lord Jesus. And we pray this in his name and for his sake. And amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Kenny. Sheriff, if you will, lead us in the pledge.
Would please face your flag, pledge allegiance, and move your hats, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thanks, everyone. Next is approval of our minutes from our previous meeting. Guys, y'all had a chance to look over those. I need a motion and a second to approve our minutes from August the 13th, 2019.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next is our treasurer's report. Good morning, Glenna.
Good morning. You'll see the treasurer's report was on the Dropbox. This is also available to the public if anyone would like a copy of it after the meeting. As of 7/31/2019, our total funds balance was $6,891,338.28. As of 7/31, our general fund revenues were at 5.5%. Our expenditures were at 11%. Our road fund, our revenues were at 16.2%. Our expenditures were at 3.7%. Our jail fund revenues were at 16.9%. Our expenditures are at 9.6%. Our CSEP fund, our revenues are at 0.41, and our expenditures are 0.42. Our 911 fund, our revenues are at 3.2, and our expenditures are at 8.0. The LGA fund and health fund have not had any expenditures or revenues at this time. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you read the numbers for the general fund again, please?
Yeah, general fund was 5.5% on revenues and 11% on expenditures.
Okay. Thank you. Guys, do y'all have any questions for Glenn? Seeing none. Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it. Guys, first order of business today is an executive session. And according to KRS 61.810-1C, I need a motion and a second to go into executive session discussing proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the public agency, which is the fiscal court.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. No discussion. Call the roll, please.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thanks, guys. We'll go. Seconded it. This time, if you will, call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Again, thanks everybody for your patience. Next on the agenda is the personnel in our fire department. Chief? Good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How are you all?
Doing good. Good to see you.
I'd like to recommend to the court today to hire John Robinson. John wasn't able to be here today because he's at work. He texted early this morning, see if we're gonna be able to make it. John previously was employed by the county as a firefighter 2 from 11 of 2016 to 3 of 2019. He departed and acquired his IFSAC 1 and 2, which qualifies him now for a firefighter 3. He was a good asset for the department. Would like to recommend that you all give him a chance to come back. We done got gear that fits him. We can put him on the truck when he starts. We're asking for the beginning date of 9/4/2019 at $8.50 an hour, and that's a firefighter 3 position.
Make a motion, we hire John Robinson.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second to hire John Robinson as recommended, guys. No discussion. Call the roll, please.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is personnel. It's a custodial. Donna? Good morning, Donna.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I want to recommend Heather Foster for full-time custodian.
There she is, yeah.
She has custodial experience. Her hours will be 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Her start pay will be $10, and the start day will be 9/11/2010. And the committee was Paula
2019.
Smith, Tracy Farthing, and myself.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Motion to hire Heather Foster as a custodian for $10 an hour beginning on 9/11, Judge.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Roger. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Well, I'd just like to comment to Donna, what a good job y'all do with the help that you have. I mean, you know, you just look around, any building, especially in here, everything looks so good, and you got a big job, and I commend you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry, for those comments. Any more discussion, guys? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next is EMA CSEP. It's access control bid. Both of y'all present. All right. We have Dustin Heiser and Chris Israel. Good morning, guys.
Morning. At the last court meeting, you gave us permission to enter into negotiation with Advanced Digital Systems for the EOC access control system. We did that over the last 2 weeks and did some negotiation with them. They did submit another option listed as 3B in the packet that you have. It's essentially option 2, except with the changes that we negotiated. The only change we negotiated was to remove the physical hardware and remove that to virtual hardware so that it rides on the county's network and the county's servers, which gives us redundancy and backup privileges to that system instead of being relying upon one piece of hardware. The final amount for that was $58,133.93. That takes care of the existing 16 doors in the EOC to bring them onto the new system. It adds an additional 9 doors to the system as well. We did put out the bid to include the Joint Information Center, but we do not have the funds to do that project, so we will not be putting any equipment in that building. It'll be just the EOC and the additions there, but this system is expandable so that it can add those facilities when CSEP comes up with that money, and it could add county facilities in a later date. And this is a 100% federally funded project through CSEP.
Yeah, when the CSEP program ends, these funds will no longer be available to us.
So we're seeking your permission to award the EOC access control systems to ADS, Advanced Digital Systems.
So moved.
So I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion, guys? Any more questions? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Next, Dustin, you have an HVAC contract bid or award.
Yes, sir. So we went out for quotes on It's a contract to maintain our HVAC systems at our Joint Information Center and our EOC. As well as we asked some of the organizations to include the tower site shelters that we have, of which we have 9 towers, 10 total shelters. We are asking your permission, the court's permission, to allow the judge to sign a contract with Total Comfort. This particular contract is only $4,329 because they are who we currently have a contract with to maintain the tower sites. So this is just EOC and JIC additions to that. So that's where you see the total contracts with them would be $13,204, but this particular contract is just for $4,329. This is a fully funded CSEP contract. Again, you know, these funds are only through the life of the CSEP program.
This is maintenance only?
This is
not
maintenance only.
repair of it?
Nope, maintenance only. Yep.
Well, they probably change filters or something.
Change
like that. It's
filter,
probably
yeah,
included.
there's
Things
filter
like that.
changes
Yeah.
and biannual checks, or, twice a year checks, so.
Is this a calendar year this goes to?
I think it'd be once we sign the contract, so at that point, it'll be a year, yeah.
Yeah, the quotes are, we're comparing apples to apples, right? Because there's a big difference between, you know, some of these other quotes.
Yep. So the only one that didn't compare apples to apples was Madison HVACR. They left the boiler out at the EOC. And then obviously Total Comfort left out the tower sites, as we currently have a contract with them on those sites. But yes, everything else was.
These other numbers are not including tower sites.
They are. Yep. BME includes tower sites, HMC, and Comfort Systems include the tower site systems as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Move to give you permission to sign the contract with Total Comfort Maintenance.
Thanks, John. I have a motion to allow me to sign a contract with Total Comfort as recommended by Dustin Heiser. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. No further discussion. Call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dustin. Appreciate it. Next, the road department. This is awarding a Bogey Mill road repair.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is actually the second part of the Bogey Mill project. The first part, if you remember, is we done the slide repair. That has been completed. So this is a state-funded project. We have set a bid out to resurface the entire length of the road and replace several culverts that are in need of repair before it is done. We don't have the equipment really to do this size of job with the blacktopping. So we bid it out. We received one bid from the Allen Company. It was for $207,946.75, and we suggest that we award that bid to the Allen Company.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a motion and a second as recommended
So moved.
on the Bogey Mill road repair project?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Next is the second reading of ordinance 1912. This is our property maintenance code. Good morning, Bert.
Good morning. This is an ordinance relating to the property maintenance code within Madison County, Kentucky, and repealing ordinance 07-03, whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court wants the property maintenance code to reflect the most current international property maintenance code standards, and whereas the unique balance between the development community and agricultural shall be respected and considered. Whereas there exist in areas of the unincorporated areas of Madison County, Kentucky, properties where the public health, safety, and welfare are compromised by property owners failing to properly maintain their property. And whereas the need to ensure our ordinances are current and accurate. Now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of Madison County, Commonwealth of Kentucky as follows. Section 1, the 2018 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code as published by the International Code Council Incorporated, be and is hereby adopted as the Property Maintenance Code of Madison County in the Commonwealth of Kentucky for the control of buildings, structures, and land as herein provided. and each and all of the regulations, provisions, penalties, conditions, and terms of said property maintenance code are hereby referred to, adopted, and made a part hereof, as is fully set out in this ordinance, with the additions, insertions, deletions, and changes, if any, prescribed in Section 2 of this ordinance. Section 2, the following sections are hereby revised. Section 2.1, add an additional regulation to Section 102 of the code, titled Section 102.11, to exclude buildings and lands used solely for agricultural purposes on working farms 10 acres or more. Section 2.2, adding regulations to Section 104 of the code, titled 104.1, requiring complainants to file complaints in writing. All written complaints shall be signed by the complainant, stating their address as well as the address of the subject property. It will also state how the subject property is negatively affecting the complainant. Additionally, the code enforcement officer, at his or her sole discretion, may initiate investigations of properties where no complaint has been filed, but where the public's best interest would be served by enforcement action. Section 2.3, delete Section 103.5 of the International Property Maintenance Code standards, as Madison County does not charge fees for the enforcement of this code. Section 2.4, delete Section 112.4 of the International Property Maintenance Code standards. Section 2.5, Section 302.4 of the International Property Maintenance Code standards shall have the following height of grass and weeds inserted as is recommended by the code to a height not to exceed 8 inches. Section 2.6, Section 304.14 of the International Property Maintenance Code standards shall have the following dates inserted as is recommended by the code of May 1st to October 1st. Section 2.7, Section 602.3 of the International Property Maintenance Code standards shall have the following dates inserted as is recommended by the code of January 1st to December 31st. Section 2.8, Section 602.4 of the International Property Maintenance Code standards shall have the following dates inserted as is recommended by the code of January 1st to December 31st. Section 3, per Section 106.4 of the International Property Maintenance Code standards, any person who shall violate a provision of this code or fail to comply therewith, or with any of the requirements thereof, shall be subject to fines of not less than $10 and no more than $100 per day. Each day that a violation continues after due notice has been served shall be deemed a separate offense. Section 4, that nothing in this ordinance or in the Property Maintenance Code hereby adopted shall be construed to affect any suit or proceeding impending in any court, or any rights acquired or liability incurred, or any cause or causes of action acquired or existing under any act or ordinance hereby repealed as cited in Section 2 of this ordinance, nor shall any just or legal right or remedy of any character be lost, impaired, or affected by this ordinance. This ordinance shall become effective on the date of the second reading and adoption.
Thank you, Bert. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of ordinance 1912, the property maintenance code?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, guys?
So Bert, I want to thank you for getting me the new edition of that property code.
Sure.
And when I was reading through it, I noticed that in the section 2.4, it was when you were deleting section 112.4, that was the section that seemed like had the bite for us. We're always complaining about property violations where we can't do anything other than just pretty much complain and take pictures and send letters repeatedly. However, that is covered in section 3, so I see why you did that.
Okay.
And, I appreciate that. I appreciate the material.
I think this will just update us and get us where we need to be. And our new code enforcement officer starts tomorrow, and I got plenty for her to do, so we're excited to get going.
At this time, I'll open it up for any public comment, since this is a second reading. According to KRS, second readings allow public comment in this matter of ordinance 1912, our property maintenance code. Seeing none, and if there's no more comments from magistrates, call the roll, please.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Botkin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bert. Appreciate it. Next is first reading of ordinance 1913. This is adoption of our roads. Willie Willis. Good morning, buddy. Good morning.
Whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court wants to ensure the county has an accurate identification of roadways in the county road system. Whereas Madison County does not have consistent records of historically adopted roadways in the county. Whereas Madison County is required to have current and accurate roadway information approved by the Madison County Fiscal Court in accordance with Kentucky revised statutes. Now therefore be ordained by the Fiscal Court of the County of Madison, Commonwealth of Kentucky, that the 2019 Madison County Road System list shall be adopted as the official record of approved county roads. The Madison County Road Department would like to recommend the adoption of newly revised county road list. The list has been generated from past records and documentation from fiscal court records and historical information from the past. We do not feel we have had a complete list as an approved guide to go by. The listed presented will ensure the county has accurate identification of roadways in the county road system. This list will serve as a consistent record of all county roadways, and upon approval will serve the requirement of an official approved list of the Madison County road system. Further, going forward, this will be the list we will use for the county road maintenance.
Thank you, Willie. Guys, at this time, do we have a motion and a second to approve first reading of ordinance 1913, adoption of roads?
So move.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion at this time?
Judge, if we have a road that's somehow been omitted, can we amend that in?
Absolutely.
Later?
Mhm. Yep. And, you know, obviously, we have a lot of miles of roadways in our county, and so we're trying to come up with a consistent list, and then we might have a few of those that we've missed. You know, we've given these out, and hopefully we can all look through them as the road department and as community leaders to make sure that they're as accurate as possible. But
I saw two that we didn't have, and when I talked to Willie about it, those will be adopted in the resolution in the agenda today, so. it
And
covers
then we've
those.
got a couple that, well, one of them, they got in your district, it's actually in my district, but I mean, it's just a small road, painful.
Well, how we're adopting the list too is, you know, we broke it down for you guys in magisterial
Yes.
districts because we thought it'd be easier for you all to look at it. But actually, the one that's attached to the ordinance is actually is an alphabetical list.
That's fine.
And it also gives the miles and the feet of the road so that, you know, some roads might go to a gravel lane or whatever and it becomes private. And so we just need to have that, as much identified information as we can.
Well, some of them too, when we got to looking at it, they are split, the road is split right at the district, where the districts join. So I have one side and one.
Right, yeah.
Larry or John have the other side of it, so it was a little confusing when we were looking at those.
Okay. All right. Guys, I have a motion. We have a motion and a second. No more discussion? Seeing none, call the roll. Clerk Barger.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Stowe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Willie. Appreciate it. You're so quiet, I forgot you were still standing up there. Sorry. Next is first reading of ordinance 1914, the ad valorem tax, or rate. Glenna.
Madison County Fiscal Court Ordinance 1914, an ordinance relating to the ad valorem tax for Madison County, Kentucky. Whereas KRS 441 mandates that the Madison County Fiscal Court is legally responsible for budgetary oversight of the Madison County Detention Center and responsible for the incarceration of the prisoners arrested, sentenced, or held in Madison County, including but not limited to providing and maintaining a jail facility. And whereas the Madison County Detention Center was built in 1990 to house 184 inmates. And whereas the Madison County Detention Center is responsible for housing county inmates, which in total are exceedingly greater in number than what the current facility was intended to hold. And whereas the cost of the recommended 800-plus bed facility is an estimated $45 million. And whereas the real property rate is not enough to cover maintenance, construction, and operating of either the current or a future detention center. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court members took an oath to faithfully execute all laws of the Commonwealth. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court is responsible to ensure the financial solvency of the county and the Madison County Detention Center. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has thoughtfully considered all possible revenue options afforded under state law. Now therefore be ordained by the Fiscal Court of County of Madison, Commonwealth of Kentucky, to increase the real property rate by 11.4 cents per $100. That equates to a total real property tax rate increasing from 8.2 cents per $100 to 19.6 cents per $100. This ordinance shall become effective on the date of the second reading and adoption. And there will be a public hearing before the second reading.
Thank you, Glenna. Appreciate that. Do I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1914, the ad valorem rate for Madison County Fiscal Court?
Motion to approve ordinance 1914 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Judge, I'm totally in favor of doing something about the jail, but I think a rate needs to be discussed and talked about. I guess we can do that on the second,
Mhm.
on the second reading. So, but I think the public needs to have some input and a lot of discussion on this before we set a permanent rate on this.
Yeah, and I do want to just sort of answer that, John. I appreciate those thoughts and concerns. We as a fiscal court don't make that rule. That rule is spelled out in statute, which is the KRS 68.245. And so we have to follow those guidelines of first reading, second reading. The second reading is that public comment time. There is advertisements that have to go out in the paper that to make as many people aware of this as possible. Everybody that wants to comment on this, to have discussion, have questions, that is the time that everybody that wants to speak. Statute allows and says that everybody has the opportunity to get up at that public hearing and speak on behalf of this. So I know a lot of people are probably here today. We won't have public comment today just because KRS spells out how we handle this situation in this process. So, any other comments?
I have
Sure.
2 or 3. The first one, I guess I'll address to the county attorney. How can we go above the 4% when the law clearly states that you can't go above 4%?
Not what the statute states. You have a right to do it upon the vote, and then there's a recall petition that can go through.
I'll say it again, I'm sorry.
That's not what the statute states. The statute states that you can go above the 4%.
But you have to have a
then there's a
hearing.
recall. Yeah, there's gonna be a special hearing.
Yeah.
You guys will have a special hearing.
And this is subject to a recall, so therefore
It is
it
because
could
it's above,
be,
because it's above the 4%.
it could eventually be put on the ballot. Think
Yeah,
about that.
Yeah, so the statute.
So if this court did pass that, and it was put on the ballot, which it would be clearly voted down, what happens then?
Well, there's a whole procedure they have to follow to do that.
Yeah, it's just simple paperwork.
Well, I mean, I have to follow what that statute says. So
I
do you
understand.
all, so
I'm
that's what
not putting
saying.
you on the spot.
I can't, there's a lot of variables that come into play that will affect down the road. I can't answer the question until we see how those variables fall into play.
I understand that. I've talked to 2 different attorneys, and you're exactly right in what you're saying. But I'm just saying, it is subject to recall, and it could very well be that if the right paperwork and stuff is filled out, it'll be put on the ballot. And let the whole entire county vote on it. The other question is, just how much payment will this, how much are we gonna have to make a year on this 45 million?
Approximately, the rule of thumb that I've got for our financial institution. Go ahead, Glenn.
For approximately for the 45 million debt service, it would be about a $4 million payment.
A year?
Yes.
And that is on a 20-year bond payment.
Yes, that's on a 20-year, whereas
You could-
the previous was put on 30-year and then refinanced, and we still owe on it, and it's 30 years. The
And it's
building's
on a
30 years old.
46-year cycle right now, the old jail
Yeah.
is.
I was here when we built it. I know it wasn't big enough, but I didn't know that at the time. I know that, and if I could see that far down the future, I'd win the lottery every week.
That's one good thing about you being here so long.
Yeah, I know.
Now you've been through it. So
Yeah,
this
I've
ought to
been
be a
through
pretty easy vote for you.
Yes, it is an easy vote for that. And another thing, do we have any architectural plans on this yet?
We
All
do.
one I got is the one you drew out at my house on the napkin.
Steve?
Yeah, well, that wasn't necessarily any kind of
No, but I
architectural
mean,
drawing.
yeah.
That was just sort of something
Steve's
showing
got some.
the site plan.
We actually do, Larry. I've been working with an architect and engineer firm, the CMW, that's the county's worked with over the years. Right now, we have what we call concept drawings. They're just general drawings of the basic footprint of the building and the basic bed count of that facility. So right now, what we're looking at is somewhere between 800 and 1,000 bed facility.
When you say 800 and 1,000, you talk about 800 new ones and then 200 in the
No.
hole?
No, complete, total.
Well, we started out 600, now we're going to 1,000.
That's what we project the current need to be in 20 years.
What we based the money on was 842 beds.
Well, is this building designed to build on top?
It's designed to add on to in the back.
But
And depending on where you put it, there's a couple of concepts. One is on the existing footprint and remodeling the existing facility and then adding on to it. The other concept is a standalone somewhere, wherever the court chooses.
Can you tell them how many we have today?
Our current jail count is 415 in-house, have 48 on home incarceration, and 104 right now that we have contracted out in other counties. So right now, the county owns and is responsible for 567 inmates.
Have we looked at any bonding company to see what kind of rate we could get?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we met with them, we met with Ross and Claire, they looked at everything and gave us we've been working on this for quite a while, this isn't just.
Well, I'm sure you have, but
And actually,
I don't know
you've been
anything
here a long
about it.
time, we've been working on this since 2012. You know, we started with drawings back then, decided not to do it, 2015.
We should have done it in 2012, it'd been a lot cheaper.
You were on the court.
Well, I'm just one vote.
I agree, we should have done it in 2012. But we are at the present where we
Well,
are
we
now.
weren't looking
and
at 600
We
beds.
can't change the past, so.
Okay, no more comment.
Any other comments this time? I have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 1914 on the Madison County Fiscal Court's tax rate. Seeing no further discussion, this time call the roll.
Master Combs?
No.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
There's no doubt that we need a jail. I'd just like to readjust our percentage. I'm abstaining.
Abstaining, okay.
Yes.
Master Botkin? Judge Taylor?
Yes. All right, so I do want to make, just for everybody in attendance, we will be holding our special call meeting. Are we going to do it on that Tuesday here?
In accordance with statute, yes.
At 2 o'clock? Are we going to?
Required to do it in Richmond, yes.
So, and I want to be very open, all right? So for many years before I got here, we have held fiscal court meetings in Berea on the first meeting of every odd month. The next meeting happens to be in Berea. But statute reads that the hearing shall be held in the principal office of the taxing district, or in the event the taxing district has no office or the office is not suitable for a hearing, the hearing shall be held in a suitable facility as near as possible to the geographic center of the district. Well, this is a suitable area, and this is our principal office. So we're still going to hold our fiscal court meeting in Berea, our normal scheduled fiscal court meeting on September the 10th at 9:30, but we will not hear this ordinance until 2 o'clock on that afternoon in this courtroom.
Judge, why don't we just cancel the meeting first?
Well, because I was afraid that people in Berea might say that we moved the meeting just because of this. And that's not what I want this to be.
That's fine.
I want this to be a community decision. You know, and I want us to have open hearts and minds. You know, this is not easy on any of us. And that's this process that's spelled out in the statute. And so I just want everything to be open and above board to make sure everybody understands. So I'm making that announcement today that we'll have a special call meeting on this second reading of ordinance 1914 at 2 o'clock on September the 10th, which will be a Tuesday, right here in the Madison County Fiscal Courtroom.
And said notices will be published in the Richmond.
Yes, and notices will go out, but this is on Facebook Live right now, and so I'm sure there's a lot of people watching as well, and I know there's a lot of people in the audience today. So, all right, yeah, and people are more welcome to stay if you want to stay. If you would like to leave, you're more than welcome to leave at this time too. It's totally up to you guys. Next is Resolution 1920. This is the adoption. Yeah, just let everybody step out that wants to step out. All right, next on the agenda, Resolution 1920. This is the adoption of county roadways. Woody? Sorry.
Madison County Fiscal Court would like to adopt the following roadways for county maintenance. The roads are described as followed. Wilshire Walk subdivision, Wilshire Way, 3,088 feet, 20 feet wide. Fireside Drive, 730 feet by 20 feet wide. Watercrest Court, 140 feet by 20 feet wide. Hideaway Farm subdivision, Hideaway Ridge, 3,100 feet by 16 feet wide. Cross Ridge Trail, 1,160 feet by 16 feet wide. Oak Ridge subdivision, Plantation Drive, 3,685 feet by 20 feet wide. These roads have been inspected by the Madison County's road supervisor and are recommended for adoption.
Thank you, Willie. Do I have a motion, second, to approve Resolution 1920, adopting these roadways into our county maintenance as presented?
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question, Willie. How come we're approving a 16-foot road instead of a 20? Is
The
there a
size
reason?
of the lots.
Size of the lot?
The 10-acre tracts.
How many homes is in there?
8 or 10.
We've already got 16-foot roads in adoption, don't we?
Yes, that's in our subdivision regulation.
Okay. That kind of throwed me. I mean.
Well, this has already been approved by the planning commission too, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was approved.
Yeah, when you get to those larger lots, Larry, it lets you omit some of the sidewalk, curbs and gutters. You get certain size lots, you can reduce the size of the road
I can
on the
see
bigger
that.
lots.
I understand that, but that just kind of throwed me for a loop because we'd always been used to 20 foot. But I guess that's in subdivision.
That's in normal subdivision too.
Okay, I'm okay with it.
All right, thank you.
Do all these lots, or roads need a second coat of blacktop and all?
No, they're complete.
They're complete.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Willie. I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bodkin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Willie. Next is Resolution 1921, Kentucky Transportation Flex Funds. Guys, this is a resolution allowing me to adopt and approve the execution of the Rural Secondary Program Agreement between the Fiscal Court and the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Department of Rural and Municipal Aid, and accepting all roads and streets referred to therein being a part of the county road system. So I need y'all's permission to allow me to sign the agreement on using our flex funds. Our flex funds equal to the amount of $295,303. And we will be doing Bend Road, McKinney Lane, Millis Road, Newby Road, Pilot Knob Cemetery Road, and River Circle. And it might not be, the whole road. It might just be portions thereof with these funds. So I need a motion and a second at this time to approve Resolution 1921, Kentucky Transportation Flex Funds Agreement.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion, guys?
Well, that Pilot Knob is just part way because we got
It
half
is,
of
right.
last year,
Last
3
year.
quarters.
And it spells it out in here,
Yeah.
what we're doing it with, so.
I'm just thankful to get it.
Yeah, it is good. No more discussion. Call the roll, please.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bacon?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Burger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next is Resolution 1922. This is an interlocal agreement. This is a justice assistance grant. This is between the City of Richmond, Kentucky, and County of Madison. It's a fiscal year 2019 Edward Byron Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program Award.
I can help a little bit, but it's
Sure.
it's called a JAG grant. and-
Oh, it's our JAG grant.
Yeah,
Okay.
every year, the city and the county go
Yeah.
together. And usually we switch off years. They apply for it one year, we split it, we apply
Yeah.
for it the next year. we
Right.
split it.
It's a total grant of $11,461, and the sheriff's department gets half of it, and the Richmond City Police gets half of it. Thanks,
Yes,
Glenn.
sir.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Make a motion to accept the resolution 1922 interlocal agreement.
Second.
For the JAG grant. All right. Thanks, guys. Any further comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Bacon?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Burger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next is Administrative Office of the Courts Agreement. Guys, I would ask y'all's permission to allow me to sign this MOU between Madison County Fiscal Court and the AOC, which is also known as the Administrative Office of the Courts. This agreement is the start of our renovation to the building that we're in, and turning this whole building into the circuit court courthouse and facility. I'd be glad to answer any kind of questions that you might have. This has been on Dropbox, and at this time I would just ask for you all to allow me to sign the agreement and to start this renovation process.
Make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion? Have a second? Any further discussion?
Judge, is the LC gonna pay for the full amount of the renovation?
They will. They will. They'll pay it over a bond payment. They'll make the yearly bond payment for the term of the bond. They'll pay all costs associated with electric and operating costs of the building. They'll reimburse for custodial staff that will be placed in this building.
So about 11 million, isn't it, Judge?
The funding that we got appropriated for this was that the payment was not to exceed $800,000 a year, which equates to approximately about a $10 million renovation. We have estimates from architectural firms that, it could be anywhere between 9 and 10. But this starts the process. There is a committee that will work on this. Our counselor, County Attorney Jenny Hayman's on there with myself, a couple people from Facilities Services of the AOC, and then both of our circuit court judges, Judge Jenny Logue and Judge Brandy Oliver Brown, will be all on this committee that works on the design and how the layout will be and that kind of thing. We actually have, as long as this approves today, I think we actually have our first meeting here in a couple of weeks with the
How long do you think
architectural
it'll
firm.
take to do that, Judge?
Some estimates that we've got is approximately a year, year and a half, depending on design time and how long it takes to do that. And once we have some more hard numbers, we'll come back to the court with that.
Well, it'll take us some time just to get out.
Yeah. And that's all part of the domino effect of everybody getting where they've got to go to start, so.
Judge, with the court system paying for this total renovation, I see no reason not move forward with it.
I think it'll be really good on our community for the long run. Yeah. And not to, think about the safety factor too, so.
No, we're ready.
Seeing no more discussion? Call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Burger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bacon?
Sorry.
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
I want to vote on
Yes.
that, Judge. That's free
Yes.
money, let's vote on that.
Yeah, that's good. Next is the detention center's Grant County contract. I would just ask the court's permission to allow me to go in and sign an agreement with Grant County. Steve, you're gonna present, I guess. I'm sorry.
Just to explain if there's any questions, but basically this is just one of our out-of-county contracts for housing inmates that we simply don't have room for in our current building.
And guys, not very many, I think it's good for y'all to know, not every county that we take inmates to do a contract. It's,
Generally, it's a verbal agreement between
Right.
the jailers.
But,
This particular county actually asked for a signed contract.
and just, I want to take into consideration, this amount, which, for those that are listening or whatever, this sort of goes to what our tax increase is for, is this amount that we're going to be paying Grant County is $38 per day, is the per diem.
I was gonna ask what the rate was.
And rates are fluctuating
That's-
anywhere from probably $30 to $75.
Yeah, 38's kind of the middle of the road, or actually very reasonable. We're generally paying 40 and up, sometimes as much as 75. And then again, go back to our out-of-county numbers, we're at 104 today, and an annual cost on that is just a little over $1 million.
Yeah.
Also, to that contract, this is a very well-written contract for them.
Yes.
It's very detailed on what you're gonna pay for them. You're not just paying $38 a day.
No, that's right.
You're paying 43 cents a mile if they have to take them to a hospital, plus you're paying those hospital bills while they're there. You're paying their deputy $45 an hour until we can get a deputy. That's for the first 4 hours.
That's generally a negotiation between the jailers, but it's in the contract if they need it.
Yeah.
That's a good contract. We wanna
Yeah.
keep this whenever
Oh,
it
you
comes
bet.
time for us to bring a few in. You never know. That's a dandy contract.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve, appreciate
Okay.
it. You guys, any other comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
I don't have a motion second yet.
Oh, we don't? I'm sorry. I thought we did. Can I have a motion in a second? Huh?
Excited to get that one.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
I made the motion.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Now, is there any further discussion? Call the roll, buddy.
Master Barger?
Sorry. Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Watkins?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next is a retirement recognition. So at this time, I would like to invite up Miss Patty Reynolds. Don't be sad, all right? Yes. Upon your retirement, the Madison County Fiscal Court presents this certificate to Patty Reynolds and wishes to express its sincere thanks and gratitude for your years of dedicated service. We wish you good health, happiness, and continued success in your retirement. And I hope you aggravate Danny to death. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. You've never been short of words.
Yeah, but I like microphones.
Well, here, we turn it away.
No, I just want to say how much I enjoyed working with each one of you all. And I've been here just a short time, seems like, but I've made a lot of friends. And I wanted to thank every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Appreciate it. Next is Judge's Report. The Madison County Courthouse and its related offices will be closed Monday, September the 2nd, 2019 for the Labor Day holiday. We will reopen on Tuesday, September the 3rd at 8 a.m. This year's Kids Fest will be Saturday, September 14th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Irvin McDowell Park on Lancaster Avenue. Please contact the Richmond Parks and Recreation for more information. The Richmond Chamber of Commerce Annual City Fest will be Thursday, September 19th on EKU's campus. To register your business or organization, please contact the City of Richmond. Please contact the Richmond Chamber of Commerce. BRIA's annual, the 23rd Spoon Bread Festival will be September the 20th, 21st, and 22nd at BRIA's Memorial Park. If you'd like to register or to volunteer to help out, please contact BRIA's Chamber of Commerce. Just a reminder that the Madison County Parks open at 8 a.m. and close at dusk every day, and there's no night fishing at Whitehall Park. If you'd like to reserve one of the pavilions, please call the Battlefield Golf Course at 624-8005. Thanks, guys. That's all I have. Comments from magistrates. Tom?
Just a couple, Judge. I just want to remind everybody that, school's in session. Please slow down in school zones. I know that it's extremely crowded in the Kingston area. It's one of the worst ones we have. They're all the same. Madison Southern, they're all the same way. So please slow down in those, and please be patient in those. If you have to get up and leave a little bit early to work, not to get caught in that, I recommend you do that, because those lines down there are horrible at times. I appreciate the sheriff being willing here lately to take the speed machine out. A couple of those neighborhoods, Battlefield especially, going from 421 over to 25 is a cut through there. And I've had a lot of complaints about speeding, and those residents are really concerned about that. And we've been able to take the speed machine out, and we've had the, of course, our decoy out a time or two, and we're gonna start writing tickets. So, I mean, we wanted everybody to just be familiar with that slowdown in those neighborhoods. Also, I hope, Judge, that soon that we can get the state and CSX together on the bridge over on Midland. You know, it was been probably a couple months now when the interstate was closed and they diverted traffic, and a semi tried to come through there and hit that bridge and tore off one side of it. Well, it's been hit a second time since then now, and it's in really poor shape. And you know, we really see if we can't get CSX to come up there. They'll repair the bridge, but they won't put the guardrail back up. The guardrail belongs to state, but they won't. Of course, then it's vice versa. The state won't put the guardrail up till the bridge is fixed. So we need to get CSX engaged on that. That's all I have.
Thanks, buddy. John?
Judge, I've got several calls at the Waco school. It seems that the Pike Road turning off the Waco loop there is pretty sharp, and the buses are having some trouble and running over the end of the culvert there. We're gonna look about maybe extending that culvert there and making that left turn off the Waco loop onto Fife there, going up behind the school, a little easier turn there. I was out yesterday and looked at Peacock Bridge. The floor's all poured. All they like is the approaches, putting them back in the guardrail. So I'm thinking within a week, 10 days, that bridge should be reopened out on Peacock. Appreciate everybody being patient with that. One of our roads we approved with the Flex Fund today is Bend Road. If you live out Waco on Bend Road, you're gonna get some new blacktopping out that way. So look forward to it and appreciate it when you see it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Roger?
First, we had a culvert down in Panura Acres some time back that we looked at, and I told Willie about it, and the lady called me back. You don't hear this often, so I like to recognize people when they get commented on. And she said Willie was about as professional and polite as she'd ever seen anybody. And said that he'd come down and looked at it first and give her an idea of when he could be back to fix it, and it was there. And she just wouldn't tell me how good a job he done. So Willie, I appreciate what you do. We all do. And you just don't get to hear that much, but they're out there doing their job. The other one's kind of a strange one. My captain at the ferry called me yesterday and said a game warden, a gentleman was crossing the ferry that had talked to a game warden, and they spotted a panther in the Carver's Ferry road area. And he said he's not for sure that there's not two of them, but it might be a report of the same panther, he didn't know. But I guess it's just a warning, you know, especially for kids out playing or something, you know, if you're in that area. If they don't know how true it is, it may not be, but that's what they told the ferry captain. That's all I got, Judge.
Thank you, Roger. Larry?
Judge, I don't have anything. I'm just glad to be here.
Glad you're here, buddy. Comments from department heads? Justin? Sure.
I just real quick want to give you an update on the destruction of the chemical weapons at the Bluegrass pilot plant. They've successfully destroyed 3.3 U.S. tons of mustard agent as of August the 16th. We are in constant communication. Our emergency operations center, like I said before, 24 hours a day. We're in constant communication with the chemical activity EOC. So they've given us updates on when things are moving and when processes are taking place. So I just want to give you a quick update on that.
Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate it. Yeah, I had the opportunity to go out and with Colonel McCutcheon's, Dustin, about a week or so ago.
Yes.
And got to be as close to the actual shells and the agent as I am to our jailer Tussey over here. It was a little uneasy, but had my mask and had on a suit, and but it was good to be there and be a part of it and really see how safe, how much pride those employees take in unloading them out of the what do you call the
igloos?
No, the what?
Oh, the igloos.
The igloos, yeah, unloading them out of the igloos and then coming and strapping them down to this created pallet that's specific for the munition, and then loading them in the EONC. And then actually even doing the pressure test on the EONC once the door's closed to make sure that it is sealed. Each process of each pallet, I mean, probably takes 30 to 45 minutes. And it's so it just sort of warms you as a citizen and growing up here and being around the depot, just the pride they take and how that safety is their number one goal. So thanks for the update. Any other department heads? Oh, you know what? I didn't ask you all. Kenny? Jenny, you good?
Yes, sir.
Steve? All right. Sherry, you good? All right. Next is comments from the audience. Any audience comments?
Yeah, I have a question. It's more a question, but for the special hearing, is there a reason why it's going to be held at 2 p.m. instead of later on?
That was just what I chose. I mean, there's no really reason for that.
Because I was thinking, because it'd be more feasible for the working citizens be able to attend, more working citizens be able to attend here if it's later on. Because I've received a lot of messages that, early in the morning it's hard for them to get here, or they can't attend here to be stressed and concerned about the tax increase.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to change it like 6 p.m. where like the school teachers can attend and other working citizens?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Counselor, do you see any issue?
You get to set that hearing.
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't. Guys, do y'all have any issue with that? I mean, the last thing I want, guys, is I don't want it to be anybody to be able to sit there and say that we've pushed this through, or, I mean, any of those type of comments. So whatever we as a court think is the best way to share this issue with taxpayers in Madison County, that's what I want to do. In the past experience, I mean, people want to say that they'll come,
Right.
because and a lot of times they don't show up. I mean, that has happened a lot in the past too. So
I know for a fact I have received lots of messages about the time the court meetings are so early in the morning, and they can't, arrive here because of their work, or especially something this drastic to impact our livelihoods. And some people has already asked me if there is a special hearing and stuff. I went, I don't know yet.
yeah, well, there is. I mean,
I know.
it's in statute. Yeah.
I know, and it's going to be sent out that way to my local, my contacts and stuff. That way they know what's going on. And if we could have it at 6 p.m., that'd be better. That way you get more other citizens in here to stress their opinions about it. That way you'll know more of what we all think, if it's possible.
Guys, do y'all have any comments?
I only have one comment, Judge, and what she's saying is exactly correct, and I'm a public servant, and I'll be here. I'll tell you that straight up. But I just want you to know, I work third shift. So about 4 o'clock, I go to bed, and I get up, and I go to work all night, and I run all day for the county, and then that's about the time I go to bed. But I'll be here, because that's important.
We appreciate that.
I represent the people, I'll be here. That's not good for me, Judge, but I'll be here.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
I'm fine with
Is there any concern that we've already announced to everybody that was here that it's going to be at 2?
it. Well, I hadn't thought about that. We're gone.
What do you think, Sharon?
6 p.m.?
No, what do you think? I mean, about already announcing it at 2.
Well, I mean, it's all right, but it's you can always switch it up. And have you put it out in the newspaper or anything yet?
No,
No.
it's just went live
Yeah.
on Facebook.
I know it, but I mean, I know it's live on Facebook, but that's fine.
And
But,
a lot of people are on Facebook.
oh, I know it.
Yeah.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah.
I know you've read my tech,
Yeah.
my
So,
Facebook.
Is that?
We may have to have it at another place. This building here ain't gonna hold it.
Guys, the process, we've had a first reading, and it's spelled out in KRS how we follow this order of having a second reading. So we need to make that decision. We're trying to make it as transparent and open as possible. So, but we have to make a decision. These advertisements have to go out in the paper, and we can't waffle on that. So I'm open to y'all's recommendations.
Judge, what if we have 6 o'clock and then if people want to speak, have them sign a list down in the hallway, and when their turn comes, give them so many minutes to share their views on it.
Yeah, well, there will be a process in that. I think there's a time limit that everybody will get, and the statute says everybody that wants to speak has that opportunity to speak, so.
I'm just saying, we're not gonna get them all in here, so some of them will have to wait out.
Yeah, some would have to wait out in the hallway. And, you know, Counselor, I mean, it says your principal office of your taxing district, which this would be our,
Or Richmond, 135.
right, but we don't have a facility there, right?
Can't do it there.
And this is our principal court meeting.
Right.
Space. So-
Having the hearing here is statutorily appropriate.
Okay. All right. So if we have to line the halls of, I'm sure that we could even work for overflow seating. I don't know if it could be on television. I don't know if we have that technology, but we could open up the, I guess, circuit courtroom if Judge Logan and them thought it was okay for them to sit there. I don't know. We'll have to work through that. But are we good at 6 o'clock on the, that would be the 10th? That'd be September the 10th, which should be a Tuesday.
There would just be Richmond's meeting also, but that doesn't affect.
Yeah, see, there's another one. See, that's Richmond's meeting. That's right.
City
So
Commission.
that's the city commission meeting.
Right, that's
It is. Thanks, Taylor. It is. I mean, you're never gonna probably meet everybody's needs.
No, I mean,
You're not. I mean,
at least you'll
Chief,
get
2 o'clock. What do we think, guys? I mean, this is what government is. We listen to the people and we make what's the best decisions for the people.
I prefer 6 o'clock.
So what about the city commission meeting? What about the mayors and the commissioners meeting at the same time?
Can you make it a different day? Or does it have to be on a Tuesday?
I mean, no, there's a specific timeline that we have to follow in.
5:30? Make it a little bit earlier.
So do you think that we're gonna get through it in 30 minutes?
No, I know that, but the thing is, I mean, this is important for all the county people, all the county, citizens.
It is. That's exactly
And I
right.
think you probably get a bigger turnout than the city commission. I hate to say that, but, you know.
What do you think, Councilor?
You all need to agree on the time.
Yes. 6 o'clock's fine with me.
6 o'clock's fine, but we've got members in city council that it's gonna affect them also, those things as well, so you can't please everybody. Whatever y'all decide on, is okay.
I got 7.
The 5 of you need to come to an agreement on what time you guys wanna have.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, hey, at the end of the day, guys, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we probably do a time on. There's gonna be people that comment negative comments.
It's gonna be a conflict.
So I think we just need to do it what's best suits everybody's needs.
You're the judge on this decision.
So I'm gonna stick with 2 o'clock right here. I've already announced it. And I think it's better than it not conflict with the city of Richmond's commission meeting. So 2 o'clock, September the 10th, right here in this courtroom. So, all right. Any other comments from the audience? Yes, sir.
Mariana.
Sir, if you're gonna address the court,
You want me to take the lead on it?
you need to go to the microphone.
Yeah, just come up to the
State your name.
microphone.
Judge Taylor, members of the fiscal court, magistrates. I'm accompanied by a number of.
Please state your name.
Yeah, could you
My name is
state-
David Reimel, excuse me.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm accompanied by a number of residents, property owners at Willomac subdivision. And we are here to address an issue that is, quite frankly, it's a land use issue that is stirring up a hornet's nest in our subdivision. It centers around, can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
It centers around the construction of a pole barn, a 1,600-foot metal pole barn, 40 foot by 40 foot in dimensions, in the center of a subdivision with adjoining lots surrounding it. There's been several meetings about this. We had one last night. The individual is a resident of our subdivision. A little bit of background on it. He, approximately a year and a half ago or so, before he bought the property,
one of the things contingent upon him building the property was that he could get approval for a pole barn built on that property. It's about a 7/10 of an acre, the lot size. There's a large residence already on it. He has a shed in the back already. It's a fairly large shed, which we have had no problems with in our subdivision over the years. The background on this is important. Before he got here, he wanted to find out, because he had thought there might be an exception to building a structure such as this in a subdivision that's been established for more than 40 years with 50 homes, that there might be an issue on this. So he contacted his real estate agent, who's been in the business for decades here in this county, to ask that real estate agent to see if they could get approval for the structure through the county. The real estate agent called the authorities here in the county government and got that approval verbally to continue on with the structure, which subsequently led to a building permit a couple of months ago, before the structure started to be built, being submitted and approved for construction. The construction is underway, well underway right now. There's a number of our subdivision residents and property owners are quite disturbed about this for many different reasons. But allow me just to go ahead to sum up kind of the position that we have taken as a subdivision in the form of a letter that was hand-delivered to you, Judge, on Friday. I don't know if you've had a chance to review that yet.
Absolutely.
And also to our magistrate, Tom Bach. And the letter, if I may just go ahead and read for the benefit of the other members of the court, and I'll just pick out the important parts of this letter that we base our argument on for this structure. The purpose of the letter is to inform you of a troubling situation that has recently developed in our Willomac subdivision. Many of our homeowners have voiced their dissatisfaction regarding the current construction of a 1,600-foot pole barn on less than a 1 acre lot. I'm told it's 7/10 of an acre. Surrounded by adjoining properties in the midst of our long-established residential subdivision. The homeowner of the property, which I've mentioned here, located on 113 Old Pond Way, now that is the main road through our subdivision, had sought and received county approval for the structure prior to his purchase of the property more than a year ago. There was nothing in writing on that approval that he's received prior to coming here and purchasing the residence, the lot. The approval was unknown to others in the subdivision until construction was well underway. The Willomac subdivision does not currently have a homeowners association. Consequently, residents are asking the county to intervene by enforcing the county standards for residential subdivisions and to halt construction of the pole barn immediately. Paragraph 1 on page 13 of Land Use Regulations of Madison County, Kentucky, regarding the 4 conditions for granting the variances to property states that, and I quote, the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the vicinity. That's our subdivision, our neighborhood. Close quotes. Also, paragraph 402.3 on page 22 of the regulation regarding residential land use states that, quote, residential land use should be given a great deal of consideration in the overall development taking place in a given area. Uses that are detrimental to residential areas should be discouraged or shielded from residential areas in such a way as to mitigate any detrimental effects. Many of our residents believe, and that's close quotes, many of our residents believe that the pole barn does in fact alter the essential character of our neighborhood and is detrimental to our neighborhood. We believe that the pole barns belong in rural areas, not in residential subdivisions, especially pole barns of this magnitude. So that's basically the gist of the letter that we sent down here to the county. We do believe that it does in fact affect the character of our residents. You know, there's a difference. There has to be a distinction between a pole barn or a barn on a residential or a rural residential lot, 5 or 10 acres, what have you, being approved at this level, and the difference between it going in a subdivision with lots of an acre or less, in this case 7/10 of an acre. There needs to be a distinction drawn. I mean, where's the good judgment that's exercised in those decisions? I mean, we are concerned the detrimental effects. We're concerned about, and you can hear from some of the residents here that are joining me, the devaluation of property that might occur. I mean, we don't know for sure, but there's certainly the potential. When you ask some of the adjoining neighbors, they feel that already, that their property value has been decreased by the structure that's going up out there. That something like this can become a trend in our neighborhood. Yeah, you know, a prospective buyer is looking at our neighborhood. Somebody has a house for sale, and somebody tells them, "Oh, you don't want to move in that neighborhood. You know, they're allowing barns to be built right in the middle of their neighborhood." Now, some of you live in neighborhoods like that, in subdivisions. Would you want something like that happening next door to you? Where you look out the back door or on the deck, and there you see this huge barn going up. Now, a barn by any other names is a barn. They call it a pole barn, but it's still a barn. It's going to be made of metal. It's not going to be of the same material as the residence that occupies that lot. Maybe a modification or two made, you know, but it's still going to have a metal roof. It's going to have metal sides, and it's going to have a concrete floor, I think. And it takes up a lot of space on that lot already. That's very small. So that is our argument. And are there any comments from?
Well, we need to address yours first. Okay. At this time, I'll let Bert come up. You know, he's our director of our code enforcement and the planning and zoning office. You know, guys, one thing I am going to address in this, because I'm very proud of my name, and I deal with facts. I don't deal with allegations. And, you know, I appreciate your respect today, but that real estate agent called me, and you all are all aware of that, right? But I have no authority to give anybody approval. And you all maybe don't know my past, but I built a lot of relationships in the construction real estate business, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of what I mean to people, that people trust me. They know I've been through that. But as judge executive, I don't have the authority to do that. And I called Helen and said, what was our conversation? And she said, you said if it follows the deed restrictions, that if it meets our planning and zoning and code approvals, that I didn't see any reason why. And that is a factual and true statement that I would give tomorrow if somebody called and asked me that. We have processes in government to make sure that these things, and for somebody to think that I did something wrong and to spread that rumor mill around amongst the subdivision, I don't appreciate it. You know, that I don't have that people don't have the decency just to call me and say, hey, Judge, I'm not a scary guy, I don't think. But to have the decency just to call me and say, hey, I'll be truthful. You know, finally when I started hearing the rumblings about it, by then, you know, it's negative. You know, people are thinking negative thoughts about me when something I didn't have anything to do with.
I'm sorry. You know? I'm sorry about that.
And so we have a process, and I appreciate that. And I'm being, you know, I just want to speak my piece because I have to protect, you know, who I am and who I stand for. The sheriff and I, when I first heard about it, we immediately drove and went through the subdivision. I mean, looked to see what's going on. I've been approached by subdivision members at Cracker Barrel of your subdivision saying, "Hey, it's no big deal. We don't think it's a big deal." Tom and I have had discussions about it. Another representative of your subdivision yesterday showed up in my office and gave me a letter that said that this gentleman is going to put brick on it now to try to make the subdivision or subdivision neighbors
On the front.
you know. I mean, you know, I don't know, but I appreciate you coming in today. I'm gonna let Bert speak on behalf of our rules and regs and how we handle those situations, and then also I'm sure that from an attorney standpoint, our county attorney can answer any kind of legal questions.
Yeah, so the judge doesn't approve permits. In fact, he calls me from time to time and says, "Hey, Bert, so-and-so wants to do this on this piece of property, can they do it?" So all permits are approved out of our office. We have pole barns, whatever the term you want to use, all over the county in backyards and subdivisions. I understand this one's big, but it's not the biggest I've seen. I've had them built. People want to park their diesel pusher RVs in them, and they're huge, and they're 20, 30 feet tall. So we have pole barns all over the county in people's backyards in subdivisions. I think when you reference the land use restrictions, you're talking more of a use, and I don't think anybody here thinks that he's going to use that building for agricultural purposes. On 0.7 acres, he's not going to have cows and chickens and pigs in there. By his own statements, he's going to use it for storage and to tinker around on projects that he works on. It's a use that's accessory to the principal use of the property. It's an accessory structure. We regulate those only in terms of do they meet setback requirements, and are they built to the code? And we do inspections while they're building to make sure they do. Anything beyond that, and you talked about the differential between what's a barn and what's a garage or what's a shed or and the way we do that is by deed restrictions. So we don't want to regulate what you can or can't build on your lot. We'll regulate the use. You can't have agriculture in the middle of subdivision, just like you can't have a business in the middle of subdivision. You can't put a factory in the middle of a subdivision. We'll regulate the use, but what you're building, what it looks like, the aesthetics of it are regulated by deed restrictions. What kind of mailbox do you have? What does the building have to be, the materials it's constructed out of, fences, swimming pools, all those are regulated by deed restrictions, and the developer sets those as part of his vision or his view of what that neighborhood's going to look like in the future. Is it going to be 1,200 square foot houses, or is it going to be 3,000 square foot houses? And we don't care. As long as you build it right and meet our setbacks and our regulations, that's fine. Don't run a business out of it. Don't have cows in your backyard, but how you build it is up to you. And then an individual developer will enforce those deed restrictions, or a property owners association will enforce those, or in the absence of either one of those, an individual property, I've read a few of them, and most of them say individual property owners in that subdivision can then enforce those and can sue that person if they're not in agreement with what they're doing. I think this one says has to be constructed out of similar materials to the house. Well, I mean that's why we don't get into it, because even that could be argued. The exterior may be brick, but there's wood, there's metal, there's vinyl. He is using those materials to construct this pole barn. Now he has mentioned that if it will make things easier, he'd be willing to brick it. But that's between him and I don't care if he bricks it or not. I just don't care that he builds it right and that it meets the setbacks. And then beyond that, I would encourage the neighborhood to get involved and pursue him to meet the deed restrictions.
Thank you, Bert.
No.
Go ahead, Roger.
My experience with
I think what we failed to mention.
Excuse me, sir. Mayor
Oh, I'm sorry.
Barger
Did you want to ask me a question?
my experience with subdivisions, if you don't have a homeowner association and the deed don't strict that he cannot have this on there, you don't have much teeth to do anything with. and that's bad to say. I mean, that's bad for you all, but that's where the subdivision some time back should have created a homeowners association.
That's why we have a land use regulation for this county.
Right.
And it is spelled out in there that it should not be altering the essential character of a subdivision or any vicinity. It does alter that. The size, the placement, the material alters the essential character of the subdivision. Those things are being disregarded. It's your own county regulation, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're arguing here. There's a section in the regulation that talks about variances and the approval of variances. A variance is something that is different from the norm. It's not something that is usual. That pole barn is different from the norm. That's what we're trying to convey here. There's nothing else like it in the subdivision. Why aren't we following the regulations? I mean, if I may here, just this one talks about for residences. I didn't mention this in the letter or today here. Residential land uses. Guidelines for Madison County. On page 22 of the land reg document. Residential land use is the most extensive use of land in most urban areas, and second only to agricultural land in the unincorporated area of Madison County. Included under this category are single-family residences and multifamily residences. The residence or home, now listen to this, which we all have here, and that's why we're here. The residence or home constitutes one of the most important parts of any community. The home place represents the single most significant investment that most people will make in their lifetime. And also is the place where they are likely to spend most of their time. Accordingly, then it goes on to residential land use should be given a great deal of special consideration, which I read to you earlier. That's in the regulation here. We don't have a homeowners association. There are a lot of subdivisions that don't have a homeowners association, but we rely on our county government, our public servants that are in the business here of protecting us, protecting our properties from this type of thing happening. And so that's why we're here. We, bottom line, we want the court to stop construction and eventually remove the structure from the premises. And if that doesn't occur, variances, according to your own regulation, are to be submitted through the Board of Adjustments for the county, the 5-citizen body for Madison County. And we would like to take that issue up before them if we are not heard here on that issue. So that's where we stand. I don't think I have any more comments unless I have some from our other neighbors.
Is there any litigation already taking place in this?
I'm not going to comment about that because I'm not involved in any of that, and not in the least, and I don't intend to myself. I've pretty much just been the spokesman for this group.
As a subdivision, though, so there's not a subdivision group getting together to, or has already filed charges
I'm not
or
aware of a
anything?
group getting together.
Okay.
If anyone here chooses to comment about that,
Okay.
but I am not involved in that, Judge.
Well, I was told that there was already maybe a couple suits. I mean, again, I'm not believing it because I'm not just going to believe hearsay.
Right, that's what I mean.
And so I was just curious though if there was.
And
Do
earlier,
you have any, as our counsel, do you have any advice in this situation? Would you got any guidance for us, in how we should handle this? I mean, I've always been told this is a civil issue between property owners.
Right. Well, to start with, I didn't know anything about this until you came to speak, so I wasn't privy to, obviously what conversations judges had or anybody else, so I don't know anything about what's going on with subdivision. So I say this without having what I tend to say legally. I don't have the facts, so whatever I say is just kind of a general assumption at this point. As far as the county goes, if Bert says this is met, that their compliance, the only remedy that they're gonna have is essentially, unless statutorily given a different process, is to file a civil suit. If the county comes in, you know, if we even have a position that we have to take and say, yes, this was approved or not approved, that decision's then made by that department. If it feels like it extends beyond that, then there's the remedy that would take it essentially to circuit courts.
I appreciate that. And you said you haven't reviewed anything?
Well, I didn't know this was even gonna be brought up
And
today,
I understand
so.
that. There is information on that, exactly that, here in your own documents, in your own ordinances, in the regulation. And let me just.
Let me make myself, and I'm saying, I understand that, but it is not my decision to make whether it complies with that at that point.
Yeah,
If our property maintenance, they manage it and they are the ones that say, yes, this was given and it meets it, then they make a finding that that's the case.
Right.
If it goes through that, there's a separate process. It's not just, hey, we get to say, when you come for public comment, hey, we get to change that.
If I may, your suggestion that we pursue this through litigation, I think I heard you say that. And what I want to suggest is that we pursue that through your own county regulation.
But Bert, you don't think that they're not meeting our regulation, is that?
Let me
they're meeting our regulation. Are you saying that?
That's my opinion, yeah.
Yeah, so that.
There's I refer you to page 14. Page 14 says the Office of Planning and Development is responsible for the general oversight of the subdivision regulations, which there are written subdivision regulations, land use management regulations, building codes, and so on. The administrative official designated by you, Judge, with the approval of the fiscal court, shall administer and enforce this ordinance, the ordinance being the entire regulation. For the purpose of the ordinance, the administrative official shall have the following duties. One of those duties is to take any action authorized by this ordinance to ensure compliance with or to prevent violations of this ordinance, which includes ordering the removal of illegal buildings and structures. That's written right here in your regulation. You have the authority to order, stop the cessation of that structure being built, which is, like I said, is still being built, and to order the removal of it on property from our subdivision. You have the authority to do that.
And he has the authority over, because you all think that it's not in compliance? Is that what you're saying?
We think, Judge, that again, the language in your regulation specifies and has very much detail about something called variances. A variance is something out of the
Just
ordinary.
1 second. No, I'm going to clear this up, because you keep references. This is about the third time. You keep talking about variances, and variances is a process whereby somebody comes into my office and submits an application for a variance to something that's in the regulations. That's not happening here. Nobody's asked for a variance, so there's nothing to approve or disapprove. I just wanted to clear that up.
Well, that's your interpretation of it. The variance is something that varies, that differs. That's what we're arguing here.
But that's not what the code says.
Well,
That's not what the reg says.
Well, that's what the writing says in your regulation.
I think your
I mean,
interpretation
you can draw distinctions in between the lines.
Okay.
But it doesn't say that.
All right. Tom, I mean,
Variances have to go through the court of adjustment.
But the person that is, Bert, what you're saying though, the person that is maybe created a violation or wants something
Something that's outside the
that's
scope.
outside the scope would request that variance.
That's right.
Not somebody that you don't see that needs a variance, right? They've met the setback requirements,
They met our requirements.
they've met our requirements. Yeah, so there's no variance to get if they've met our requirements.
But they have.
And then the other thing is that does this, and this is maybe a question for a counselor, just to help me understand, but there's many other outbuildings in that subdivision that aren't in compliance. I mean, even the one that, and I'm not gonna say names here, but there's even one there that is very nice, that a homeowner out there told me that his doesn't even meet the subdivision deed restrictions because the garage door is facing the road. And so, you know, if we get into a situation where, you know, we're picking and choosing what we require or don't require, then are we setting ourselves up to make everybody out there in that subdivision then have to meet this restriction?
Well, you're saying we, but you don't get to enforce a subdivision restriction.
I'm saying we as a county, I'm saying.
I mean,
as a county.
that is why they have the option to take it to court, not fiscal court.
To a civil court, okay, all right.
Well,
You mentioned about a front garage door facing the front. Is that a new structure, or is that something that's been here a long time? Because Mary Ruth McWhorter, former builder.
I don't know, I'm just going by what.
They
what is
authorized that on that particular home.
Hey, I'm just going by what your own resident of the subdivision told me. I mean, and that's not
There's a lot of
hearsay.
that Hearsay, I mean.
That's not hearsay. That actually came out of the owner's mouth to me. So it's not, that was not hearsay. So, Tom, you want to say something?
Well, there's, no, let's hear, I want to hear what everybody
Okay.
has to say.
Robin?
Oh.
Come up. Robin, state your name.
My name's Robin Carey, and I've lived in Madison County just about all my life. I just want to open a little bit with my grandfather purchased property out on Lexington Road in 1948 prior to the interstate. I've seen a lot of changes going on in Madison County throughout this time. We purchased a home on Sunset Avenue. We lived through flooding, road construction, 3 to 4 weeks of listening to a jackhammer less than 50 feet from my kitchen window. One day I returned from Meyer. There was a hole in my driveway because they were doing construction big enough to put a vehicle in. It was flooding. Water everywhere. I was told it was a 100-year flood. I also lived beside a lady who loved junk. Prior to garbage day, she pulled everybody's garbage from up and down the street. Made numerous phone calls to the city. They would come, take pictures. Nothing would happen. 6 months down the road, call again. So needless to say, I wasn't real happy with my residence on Sunset. I looked for probably 7 years in Madison County. I wanted a unique house, good location, mature trees if I could have that. So we did. We found a house in Willimack Subdivision. I love living in Willimack Subdivision. It's convenient, established neighborhood, small neighborhood, and very convenient. So the first thing we asked before we purchased was, are there deeds, restrictions for the neighborhood? Yes, we got a copy of that. 2.5 years later, we're facing this, a 1,600 square foot pole barn in the middle of our subdivision. Not a shed, not a garage, but a pole barn. A pole barn that started with, he was gonna tinker in, then gonna do a little woodwork, because his previous location, he was able to build this. The latest 2 things we've heard, he's going to retire and put an RV in there and a plane. Right here on 7/10 of an acre in a unique little subdivision that obviously we can't seem to do anything about. But yet there are deeds and restrictions filed at the county courthouse, but because we don't have a homeowners association, we can't do anything about it. To me, these are recorded in the courthouse. We should be able to do something about it. Helen Fardo was his listing agent, sold him the property. She's been a long time real estate agent. You can't tell me she couldn't have found him a better property, knowing that he wanted to build a pole barn. 4 Mile, Berea, I don't know, I'm not a real estate agent, but I know she could have found him something more appropriate. In turn, we've already talked about this, she contacted Reagan, I don't know what was said, but to me, if you are a good qualified real estate agent, there must have been a little question in her head of, I better call someone else to find out if this can be done or not be done. He had a very established yard many trees which he cut down, every one of them. Had to rework his whole septic system. Then for all summer long, 90-degree weather, burned every tree in his backyard, every pine tree. 90+ degree weather, oh, he's burning the trees again because the smoke went everywhere. During a no burn zone, still burning. A gentleman, he was approached, the gentleman that owns the property now was approached by a neighbor because we obviously saw something was going on, and he was building a shed. Well, I don't know the definition of a shed, but a shed in a barn, I'm a country girl, a little bit different. I called the city, started with Judge Taylor's office, directed to planning and zoning, was informed that we don't really look at the deed restrictions. We ask the gentleman who comes in to file the permit, have you reviewed your deed restrictions? So to me, there's a problem there. Talked to Mr. Sizemore, same thing. We don't really look at the deed, we can, but we don't look at that every time somebody comes in and files a permit. I think there's another problem there because the permit is recorded. The restrictions are recorded. So I'm thinking, well, what's the good of recording the deed and restrictions? Nobody follows it. You have to have a homeowners. That's what I kept being told. You have to have a homeowners association. Well, being a respectful neighbor, I've got an extra lot. I could have built a barn. But no, I'm a respectful neighbor. I read my restrictions and guidelines. Deputy judge finally got a call from her, expressed my concerns, and I was told it was a personal matter. Finally received a phone call from Judge Taylor, voiced my concerns again. Again, I was directed, well, you don't have a homeowners association. Hard to get anything enforced when you don't have a homeowners association. I said, but we have a deed and restrictions that's recorded. Well, again, doesn't mean a whole lot. Obviously, by now, I should have gotten the message, but I didn't because I'm persistent. And Mr. Taylor, you told me yourself, you work for the constituents. In this case, it doesn't seem like it. So, what I don't want to happen at Willimack is another Barnes Mill estate. And my apologies if anyone does live there. But I don't want, yeah, there's a few buildings in the backyard. They may not exactly match the house, but they're not 1,600 square feet. And to answer the question about the brick, he's going to put a little bit of brick in the front. The rest will be metal. Pretty big to put an RV in. So, it does state in the deed and restrictions, number 15, we do have phase 1 and phase 2 in our neighborhood. Must be improved in writing by the owners of Willimack Place. Number 16, owners of Willimack Place shall have the right to refuse to approve any plans and specifications for buildings, grades, walkways, roadways, which are not deemed suitable or desirable in their opinion. Number 6, all outbuildings must be approved by the owners of Willimack Place as to location, style, and materials. Again, this is recorded. So needless to say, I waited 6-7 years to find a home, a subdivision that I wanted to live for, well, my lifetime. We've already spent a lot of money on a garden, no buildings. And then a gentleman comes from out of state So to me, it looks like a little revenue's being built here, because we sell more properties, we get more tax. We put buildings on them, we can charge more taxes. And I don't think any of you up there sitting today would want a metal pole barn if you lived in a small subdivision built next to you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Robin, appreciate it.
Can I address this one thing? Because we get this a lot. We record documents so that they can be found later. That's the only reason a document's recorded. There's no legitimacy that's added to a document by it being recorded in our office. It's just so other people, just like you found those documents in the county clerk's office. If those documents weren't recorded there, where would you find them? You would have to find them from the builder. So there's no legitimacy, no one thing trumps another or makes it more legal because it's recorded in our office. It's just so they can be found in the future. That's the whole reason.
Nobody has to follow them, though.
That's where it comes into ordinance and law, statutes that are way beyond my office. Again, that's what I'm saying. Just because it's recorded in there doesn't mean your deed's recorded there. Your deed could be totally fraudulent and still be recorded in the office. It's just to hold and retain forever. That's why we record.
Well,
oh, yeah,
See, I want to give everybody a chance to speak.
well, I mean, as long as it's new information, as long as it's new information, I mean, I'm open. I mean, I want to give everybody their time.
And let me add, just because there's not a subdivision association does not mean you don't have a remedy in circuit court. It doesn't say that it has to be filed, a lawsuit has to be filed by the subdivision association. You also have the right to see about forming a subdivision association. It doesn't necessarily have to be formed at the beginning of the building of subdivision. So there are remedies for you all. I don't think anyone's saying that there's not a remedy for you guys to do it. It's just the law requires the remedy has to be done in a certain way, and in this situation, it's circuit court.
Okay.
So we're not saying the subdivision, those aren't valid. That it's almost like any other contract. You have to take it to court and fight over.
Or we can inform our real estate agents that we do have deeds and restrictions, and advise people otherwise that want to build these large barns in, smaller subdivisions. That would be helpful also. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Please state your name.
I'm Paul Adams. I live at 108 Cedar Lane, right down the street from where actually the next street over from where Robin lives. And in answer to your question, even though we don't have a homeowners association, it says on the deed restrictions that they go for 10 years and roll over automatically in perpetuity. So actually, we do have deed restrictions that are in effect and are registered at the courthouse. So is there any question about that?
Well, we don't enforce deed restrictions.
That's your option to take it to circuit court. It is just like as Clerk Barger said, all the documents that get enforced or get recorded in the county clerk's office does not mean the county's responsible for enforcing those documents.
But are they not legal?
That's for a judge in a black robe to decide.
But I mean, it says in there
You have
that-
the right to file the suit because your position is the claim that yes, it is. And I would probably say, personally, that's a good position to state it. That says it's effective, so you have the right to file the suit. Then it's up for the judge
Okay.
upstairs to decide whether it's an enforceable provision.
Okay, so let me mention one other thing that has nothing to do with Willamette subdivision. In the not very distant future, you're going to be looking at 500 acres at the corner of Goggins and Barnes Mill. It is currently for sale. Somebody's going to want to buy 500 acres and develop that property. Keep in mind that you want it to be nice. You don't want it to look like Keeneland. You don't want it to look like it does behind the Holiday Inn down there. We expect something better than that. We expect something to look nice, possibly have sidewalks, streetlights, not apartments, not trash all over everywhere. Keep that in mind when it comes time to regulate that. And let's do it right.
And I appreciate that comment, but I also want to make it clear that that could or could not be in our governing authority.
I understand that.
That could be in the city of Richmond.
I
So
understand
if somebody starts developing 500 acres, you know, before the fiscal court, whether it's us sitting up here or the next administration, make sure you know who's.
Well, I also expressed that to the city because they're dealing with that 62 acres right across the street. And I said, whatever you do here, they're gonna wanna do across the street. So, but we need to keep that in mind because we are very definitely affected by it. We don't even have a turn light now at Goggins coming in from Barnes Mill. And we could have had the developer of the mall put that in. But we don't ask these developers for what they need to be responsible for, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, if there's more
Well, I just wanted
information.
David Reimold again, from the subdivision. Just wanted to respond to what I heard about sheds. You know, there's a number of sheds on our residential lots. Nothing of this magnitude. And the difference is that on those sheds, they're temporary. This is a permanent structure that's going to be there for decades. It's a big difference to consider that, we think. And I go back to, we keep talking about litigation avenues. Yes, there's always that avenue. But what I think some of us are trying to convey here is that there are regulations in the county already to protect those subdivisions that don't have a homeowners association. I mean, you just can't be let out there to dry.
Did y'all ever have a homeowners
No,
association?
there's never been one as far as I know. You've been here a little bit longer, Paul.
You've had
I've been
deed
here
restrictions.
31 years.
You've had deed restrictions, but nobody's ever formed a homeowners
There's
association.
never been a peaceful, quiet subdivision for decades until this has got everybody up in an uproar. I mean, feelings are being affected between neighbors and so forth. So and then I would like to know if, you know, once you all act on this as a fiscal court, what's been requested? If it's not approved, then the avenue that we would like to pursue, and you need to tell us how to do that, is through the Board of Adjustments to hear our argument. Because they can enforce it also before we go to court. The fact that the regulations have not or have been ignored in respect to special consideration being given residential land use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Linda Adams. I live in the subdivision. I have a question about the building permit. We have several empty lots. They're owned by different people. We have 2 empty lots. So if we ever move, our lots might be split up. If homes are built in the future and a building permit is requested, do they not look at the restrictions? Because there's restrictions on file with the subdivision. When the building person gives the building permit, like size of the home, things like that, do they look at those restrictions or do they just look at county restrictions? Because that's why I'm here. That's what I'm worried about is things happening in the future.
I'll let Bert answer part of that, how he looks at it, but I'll just
We
tell
do
you.
not look at deed restrictions, no. We advise the applicant that they need to check that, and that's their decision, and they can proceed at their own peril.
And I want to make a statement. If we as a community feel like that we need to change how us as a fiscal court looks at deed restrictions, enforces deed restrictions, then, hey, we can look at that.
Well,
We can look at that for the future if we as a court decide that that is something that is important to the overall community. But we can't just pick and choose when we enforce something or when we don't. I mean, it's either all or none.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Lexington looks at deed restrictions when they.
Yeah. And that might be something that we can look at in the future. We're working on a tree ordinance right now because we're having issues with trees in subdivisions, right? And so we're looking at how that we can compromise for the future.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Not go out there and just pick and choose certain people to have to cut down their trees. There has to be order to it. I hear your concerns, but putting my builder hat on, it was my job when a client hired me as a builder to make sure that I was looking out for my customer. And it was my job to make sure that I looked at the deed restrictions and made sure that if they wanted to build a 1,700 square foot house on a crawl space or a basement or whatever kind of foundation, that I made sure that the restrictions didn't say 1,800 square feet.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't go to the government and blind, you know, put the enforcement on them. I mean, I did that as a professional.
So you would have
experience.
actually pulled it from the courthouse and looked at the subdivision restrictions then? If you
Well, I mean, if that's where I had to go get it, I mean,
Right.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
I would have. Most of the time, I would encourage those customers to, do you have a copy of your deed restrictions?
But if
You
we
know?
had we had it on the building permit, at least maybe a checkbox or something that the restrictions, there are no restrictions, subdivision restrictions or whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
That would be
you know, at the
helpful.
end of the day, I mean, if this goes back many years, you know, and the county had been doing that, I mean, I would like and I don't know what your deed restrictions say, but I would say that there is many people and residents in that neighborhood that would not qualify. Guarantee it. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And to me, as a county, it doesn't matter if it's a little shed or if it's a barn. The deed restrictions, if they don't depict what type of siding or if they don't depict square footage or whatever, you can't enforce that. And so, you know, I'm open to look for that in the future. That's probably not what y'all want to hear because that doesn't really help y'all in this situation. But my people that have training and experience, our counselor, our county attorney, is telling us how we can act in this situation. And that's where I have to take my guidance as a county judge executive. And I'll let the magistrates speak for themselves.
Thank
So
you.
thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Mariana Hines Loy. I live in Willimac.
Yes, ma'am.
On Pleasant View Way. And just for clarification purposes, when we talk about granting variances, the Board of Adjustments, Planning and Zoning, they're concerned with the variance in what the use of the property is zoned for. Is that correct? Not necessarily the structure itself. If you wanted, in other words, if you had a residential, you had a house in an R1 zone, and you wanted to build a business on that, that would require the person to get a variance, am I right?
I mean, they could be required to get a zone change, I guess, too. I mean, whether that was turned down or not, I mean, would maybe then go to a variance in that maybe situation. Bert? Yeah, answer. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're.
It would be a zone change or it'd be a conditional use permit.
Right.
Board of Adjustment.
But as long as the use of the structure conforms with what the zoning, the existing zoning is for, then a variance is not required. Am I reading that right? Am I not?
So your scenario, you're saying if it's a residential house and somebody then wants to turn it into a business?
Or put another structure on it from which they would run a business, what would that person need to do in order to get that permitted?
Well, if they want to run a business on that property, that'd be one track, right? It'd still be one track. So they could do a zone change.
Or conditional use permit.
And
Both of which would require public hearing.
Yeah. If the zone change didn't work because it didn't conform or it didn't follow the comprehensive plan, whatever the reasons were, then at that point, I guess they could go for a conditional use permit as well. I mean, it gives them two options.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think the zone change would be a very viable option and probably wouldn't go over, so
Yeah.
I would think
right.
it would be a conditional use permit. Bert, you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
So under what circumstances would someone need to apply for a variance? We've talked about zone changes and conditional use permits. Where does variance come in? I just needed to know this for my own.
Yeah, variance would be like a setback requirement, so if your side property line is a 10-foot setback and they build that structure at only 5 feet or 8 foot, then it would require that property owner to go get a variance in order to be able to leave that structure there or have to tear it down and move it.
Okay, I see.
But I don't think that, and again, I'm no lawyer, all right? That's for the Black Road, one of circuit court to decide. But I don't think that the way variances work, that the property owner would have to ask for that variance. Now, in a civil situation, the circuit judge could require that guy to have to get a variance. You
So
know?
if an adjacent property owner sees that the person who got the permit is not abiding by what is on the permit, for example, his setback is closer than what it says, that person would have to take him to court? Or would that person go to planning and zoning and say,
No,
look,
because one of our requirements on setbacks, one of our requirements in our building permit process is a site plan, basically saying that these are the setbacks requirement according to the plat, and that you would have to follow those setbacks. And that's one of the things they look at when they go out and do footer inspections or whatever it might be.
okay,
That is a part of the application process, correct, Bert?
Correct.
They have to mark where they're building it on the property.
all
And it
right,
has the list on there, what the rear setback is, what the side setback is, what the front building setback is as well.
all right, thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Just one other thing, referring to what Linda Adams just talked about, the fact that we seem to have a problem with people either not reading deed restrictions, not knowing there are deed restrictions, misinterpreting deed restrictions. And I came in last week and asked Bert the same question. I said, would it be possible that it might save everybody a lot of headache if on the county's permit application there were a couple of boxes to check off? One, are there deed restrictions for your property? Yes or no? And then it's incumbent upon the permit application, person applying for the permit to check that box off. And by doing so, he or she is on record as, you know, hopefully telling the truth. Are there any deed restrictions? Yes, no. If there are, number two, if there are deed restrictions, have you read them? Yes, no. That person is on record. And we could save a lot of hassle in the future by, as Judge Taylor has just mentioned, you know, maybe we could have another ordinance that says we could add this to our permit application. I am all for that, and I just wanted to state my opinion on that. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Anybody else this time? So,
All right, Judge, can I say a few things?
Sure.
I'll try to keep this brief. I want to first just speak as a resident of Madison County, all right, and as a homeowner, all right. So as a homeowner in Madison County in the subdivision that I live in, my personal opinion, not Magistrate Botkin, but Tom Botkin, I would sympathize with you. I would also say to you as a resident that I have a deed restrictions at where I live, you have one where you live. It's my opinion that your deed of restrictions is very good. It's very clear on what it says in your deed of restrictions, and to the fact that it says, number 2, of the one that you were quoting, it says no trailers, basements, tents, shack, garage, barn, or other outbuilding should be erected upon any lot at any time to be used as a temporary or permanent residence. All right, that's a very good statement, but there's a loophole even in that statement. It says as a residence. The other thing that I would say to you, and I am a retired Army officer, everybody knows that, I've said that many times, and for that fact, I love black and white. If it's in writing, that just tickles me to death. There's no gray area. There's a lot of gray area in government sometimes, but I love black and white. The problem with black and white is that, and what folks want to do, and especially when it comes to restrictions, you want to enforce restrictions. I want to enforce restrictions. The time to enforce restrictions is the time that it's happening right now. I'll agree with you on that. The problem is where you draw the line at on restrictions. to put my magistrate hat back on now, I drove through the neighborhood out there and I saw the subdivision. Your restrictions are very clear on what it says in there. There's multiple violations in there, and some of them are going to be serious violations when you're talking about the way that a building faces the street. There's houses that it just so happened that the design of the house was built so that the garage doors face the street.
But those people have gotten exceptions from Mr. McWhorter.
Okay,
because
that's
of
cool.
the way
And if
the
that's the case,
narrowness
that's
in
great.
the lot.
There's also buildings where they're just built, where a garage is just built and those doors are facing the street. Not to mention the buildings, all right? So all I'm saying is, from that aspect, I think that my opinion, I'm no lawyer, but I think that your restrictions in a court, in a circuit court, would probably cause some action for you. I'm afraid that it also might cause some action for you, if you understand what I'm saying, all right? Because I don't think you'll draw a line at where, when you start forcing a restriction, you'll find out that all of them will be forced. So, I sympathize with you, I really do. I think it's gonna have to go to a circuit court. That's my opinion. I'm done, Judge, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Anybody else this time? All right. I need a motion and a second to pay the claims and approve the transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Burger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next meeting is September the 10th, 2019. That will be in Berea at 9:30. And also, I want to go ahead and announce that on that same day, September the 10th at 2 o'clock, right here in the Madison County Fiscal Courtroom, that we will have a public hearing and a reading of, it will be the second reading of Ordinance 1914 on our fiscal court property tax rate. Need a motion and a second to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Burger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thanks, guys.